Hey, nice to see you, Paula. So we're starting LITC Podcast. This is episode 2. And one of the first ways we start is by asking people that come in looking at this piece of art, what does it say to you?
Oh, let me have a look. So it says to me, different. It also says it's very unique. I'm trying to work out.
Yeah, I've just put you on the spot.
Yeah,
like,
I'm
just
really
literally
trying
just
to
got
work
into
out
it.
what I'm seeing. It looks like a black pepper pig.
Yeah.
To me, but yeah, I'm trying to work out what it is. I see a dress, so it is a girl, I believe. But yeah, it looks like a black pepper pig.
Yeah, so like that's one of the things that we try and do. So like literally we try and just, one of the things that we're trying to do is get people to think outside the box with this podcast. So, you know, art's quite subjective, so it's just one of them. So that's why I was just throwing it out there. But yeah, so it's a pleasure and I'm really happy that you're here. So we want to find out a little bit about you and your journey. So we want to go right back to the beginning, how it all started, where you grew up, how you've got to where you've got to.
All right.
So,
okay. Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
Greetings.
cool.
I'm glad to be here. So I was born and raised in Tulsa, South London. So I'm a South London girl.
Easy.
So I lived in South London from until about 10. So what we would call my childhood was a bit normal until about 10. All right. So then I would say it was a bit dysfunctional. So at that time, I would not say dysfunctional, but I grew up in a home that had domestic violence. Later on, it had drug abuse in the home. So from an early age, I've been very responsible.
Yeah.
Very, very responsible.
So when you said that you grew up, you was in South London to the age of 10?
Yeah, I've always been in South London.
Yeah, okay,
but,
cool.
Grew up in Tulsa Hill.
Yeah, all right, cool.
Yeah. So I've always been very responsible from an early age. So where does that go? So from there, then I moved schools. So I went to a number of different secondary schools. So I went to about 3 different secondary schools because of moving around as well.
And how was that for you? Like I said, so you're saying, like, at the age of 10, is that when you started going to different secondary schools?
No,
or?
so my first secondary school was in Norwood, and then we moved from Tulsa Hill.
Yeah.
So my second secondary school was in Pimlico.
Yeah.
Then we moved again, and my final
Where did you go,
school.
Greycoats or something like that?
No, I went Lillian Bailey's.
Okay.
Where Lillian
cool.
Bailey's was the final school.
But how was that? Because you said about dysfunctional and moving from different schools. How was that for you?
I feel like in the beginning, I wouldn't have really noticed. I think by the time I was about 13, I started realizing, because I was responsible for looking after my younger siblings. I had a lot of responsibility where I had to mature from a young age. If that makes sense. I had to mature from a young age. So for me, there was a kind of double face sometimes. So I knew what was going on at home, and then in the school environment, I had to act like everything was normal. So it's kind of like doubled face. Sometimes, certain situations would mean that I would have to fend for myself, make sure the family had food, and whether that meant shoplifting or, just making sure I had my essentials as a female. That's the kind of thing that I would have to go through sometimes.
And at what ages was that when you're saying that literally?
So we're talking 13, 14.
Yeah. So you had to grow up quick.
Yeah. Pretty quick, yeah.
And is it something, because you know what it is, I was having a conversation with one of my friends the other day. At a young age, you just do. You don't always have the language to be able to express yourself or be able to understand what's going on. So you just do, you roll with the punches.
Yeah.
Like for you, is that something like what you're talking about now? Because I'm probably skipping ahead, but is it something that's really helped you later on, like within life, in terms of how you are within your career and what you're doing?
I'd say a little bit. I'd say even though when you say you just do because of circumstances, I've always been very strategic in how I do things. So there's always been a plan, and I believe like God's always been with me, because there's always been a plan behind anything I do as well. So that has helped me in the future. I'll give you an example. When one of my friends was kicked out of school, and I remember thinking to myself, you can't be at school. And her mum got to that point where she's like, I'm not doing anything about it. And I never forget, like, it was in a red telephone box, and I phoned up.
Old school.
Yeah, I phoned up a school for, spoke like an adult. Hello, my daughter needs to get back into school. I must have been about 14. My daughter needs to get back in school, and then they said, okay, you've got an appointment. And I was like, look, you need to get an adult to go with you now, right? But then she got back into school. So I've always been very mature and giving, if you see, wanting to see people do well as well. So,
and is that a result of the things that you were going through? Like, because I'm saying for me, I don't think I would think that far ahead or be that advanced to be able to do that at that age? Is that because of, like you said, having responsibility from a young age that made you like that?
Yeah, okay. I think it's that, and I think it's just in my nature. Hence why what I do in business now, it's still that type of thing, wanting to see people elevate, wanting to see people be able to grow in their self and do great things. Yeah.
So like going back, you were saying, so growing up, you went to various different schools and whatnot and moved around, and you were saying because you saw certain things at home, like what, like obviously maybe not going into too much detail, what was it that was going on at home?
I think the key thing is that having a parent who was taking drugs. Yeah. So not having to have that that home life that you would normally want to have. So that allowed me to actually not have anyone. I had to be responsible for a lot of things in the home. So yeah, it has an impact on how you view things. As you have to grow up a lot more quicker. You know, you're taking care of home, taking care of siblings. You're going to school. There's a lot of things going on. So again, in my finals, I got kicked out of school as well when I was 15, and that wasn't because I was a bad child or anything. That was just because I was coming in late, had a new headmistress. Just things just didn't turn out right. Yeah. But again, at 15, I enrolled myself into a college and said I was 16 and got my MVQ level 2, 1 and 2 in business administration when I was 15. Yeah. So I've always had that advanced mindset that no matter what my environment is showing me, back then you didn't have things like role models and things like that. And I didn't have anyone that I could say, oh, auntie, you know, any particular role models, right? So for myself, it was almost like I am going to be better than what I see. If that makes sense. So not being able to articulate it like that then, but I always knew I'm going to be someone, or I'm going to be better than what I see, or what my environment is not going to stop me from achieving in life.
Yeah. So do you have, you said you have siblings. Are you the eldest or?
Yes, so I'm the eldest in my home,
Okay.
I'm the eldest in the home.
All right, cool. All right, so if you can carry on. So you said you went and got your MVQ.
So I went and got my MVQ level 1 and 2 in business administration. I also had my eldest daughter at 16 as well. So I was a teenage mum. So at 16, I had my eldest daughter. And again, at that stage, I would say, what was I lacking? I was lacking that I felt that I didn't have a family around. It may have been lacking that I wanted to start my own family, lack of love and stuff like that. And I had my own daughter. But what I would say from that point is having another baby in my hand. I promised that day, looking at this child as being a child as well, you might be, that this child is not going to go through anything that I have
you went through.
And I made that dedication there and then to make sure that I will, self-development, self-improvement, creating the best life that this child can have is what I was going to be doing in life.
Yeah. And like, just to be honest, is that quite, well, when you're saying this to me, it's like really quite, well, it's mind-boggling, like just to think about some of the things that you're saying that you had to go through as a young person, and how was that, like that adjustment? I suppose having a child at the age of 16. Yeah. How was that for you? Like, what was the, I don't know, what would you say the obstacles or things that you went through, and maybe the things that made you strong, the things that.
I think some of the main obstacles would have been perceptions of other people. Obviously I had family members, like my gran would have said, to the other younger cousins, or said, oh no, follow Paula. Like, so I was like the outcast, like Paula's the bad one, not, that's the one you're not to follow. So I think it was almost like, again, I need to prove myself. I need to prove, just because I'm a teenage mom, what I've been through in life and things that people have said to me just because of, knowing what my parents do, that I'm going to prove them wrong. So it's almost like, I am going to be able to do. And then that's all I've done. I've just strive to do better, self-develop myself. And even going through life as being a child that don't follow Paula is, Paula's the first person to do many things within the family. So I'm the first to do so many different things in the family where the rest of the family look up to me now. And I've set examples and changed the direction of my children's life, and the generations behind me as well is turned in a different direction as well.
Yeah, I get that. So in terms of, like you say, so was you, when you had your eldest daughter, was you still at home, or did you get your own place?
I was, when I had my eldest daughter, when I first got pregnant, I went home, was living with my dad, but then I put myself into social services. So I was in social services for a little while before I got my own place. So I had my own place at 17.
Yeah. So when you say you was in social services, what, like with your daughter, how does that work?
So I was pregnant. So I bring myself to social services and put myself into care.
Okay.
Yeah. So I for a little while I was with a foster parent. For a little while I was in foster parent while I was pregnant. When I had Shadeen, I was there for a little while, and then I got my own place.
Yeah. So from a young age, you've had your own independence.
Yes,
really,
very.
And that's something that's just followed you throughout life.
Yeah, I would say so. Okay. Yeah.
But like in terms of, is your mum still around?
Yeah.
Yeah. So in terms of, as time's got on, have you tried to build a relationship, or is it just not been?
Yeah, I have tried to build a relationship. I do speak to her. We do speak, but it's not that closeness as I would have wanted to be. And I don't know if it's a fact that now she feels that, I've not been there. So she's even got her own pain going through. And I understand that. Remember, it's the woman that's birthed me. I love her. Do you get what I mean? She's always going to be my mum, and I always will respect her. But at the same time, she's got her own, what would you say? Own traumas or own things that she may feel like, I've not been there for my girls, and that keeps her away as well. Do you know what I mean? So, their own internal embarrassment or shame that I've not been around. So no matter how much you try to pull her in, sometimes she may not feel like I'm ready to come in. So it's all in God's timing. Yeah. It's all in God's timing if that's the plan.
In terms of your siblings, is it just girls, or you've got any brothers?
Yeah, I've got brothers. So I've got brothers on dad's side as well. But for my mum, there's three of us. Just girls. Okay. Yeah.
That's what I'm wanting to, because it's interesting. I know, like, I have a lot of conversation with my friends, cousins, that female and whatnot, how things affect guys and how they affect women. So let's looking at your situation. I'm sure you've worked with young people that have probably been through similar things to you. What do you think the differences are in terms of the effects, in terms of a woman and in terms of as a guy? So I'll just put it out there. So I don't know, sometimes you hear people say, oh, well, she's looking for love in all the wrong places. That's a woman. Do you get what I'm saying? So what's your feelings on things like that? Like, I'm talking about in terms of experience.
And experience, I think that's the kind of thing that may happen, that you look for something that you've lacked. Do you know what I mean? So you may be seeking, so for myself being a teenage mum, I wanted to start my own family because I wanted someone to love me, and that was the child. Do you get what I mean? So that could happen. And when in my experience of speaking to a lot of young mums, that has been the thing, that they were lacking love, that they felt they wanted to start a family, so they had someone to love them. Not in all cases, but that has been a common theme. With young boys, it may be the opposite thing as well, where they're like, they have to be a bit more like straight, hard face, like I have to be out there because, no one's going to disrespect me, or, things like that. So there's a whole impact that happens with why I think it's important that we set foundations and how we understand that the impact of adults when you have a child, how they are watching every move. Do you know what I mean? Even the way we speak to them, what we allow them to do. A lot of young people that I do speak to that in the community as well, that have gone in different direction, it's been the lack of why they've done it. Do you know what I mean? And I've spoken to kids that's been in good homes, but it's the lack of something has led them to go down certain paths. So we have to be very mindful as well and conscious in our parenting. And I think that's the thing that I'd like to express more. We need to be conscious in our parenting. So for example, this might be a silly example, but in my parenting, there was something, I can't control what my kids listen to or watch. Or listen to, because everyone loves music. But what I can do is say when you are listening to that music, whatever you listen to, is it giving you a positive message or a negative message? I'm not telling you what to listen to, but I want you to decipher what you're getting from whatever you're listening to or watching. Do you know what I mean? And in this day and age, our children are growing up on telly, on YouTube. It's an easy thing, just put them in front of the TV. And those things are feeding and teaching your kids. So if you want to be conscious about it, you need to be conscious about what is being fed into your child. So there's a study, for example, that says our children shouldn't be exposed to TV for the first 2 years of their life.
Yeah.
Not even background noise.
And why is that?
Because it's feeding into you. It's programming you into your subconscious. Because remember, as children, you're sponges. From even the womb, you're sponging. So if your mum's, calm and easy, or do you know what I mean? Is it aggy and an adjective, like that energy's feeding into you from, I'm going deep now.
No, you're not Auntie. No, come on, give it. Yeah.
That energy's feeding from the womb. So there's a study that I read that said that children shouldn't be exposed to the TV for their first 2 years of life. So if they're not meant to be exposed to the TV, in which nowadays it's busy, life's busy, you've got things doing in the house. So the easiest thing is to TV.
Yeah.
Look, babies now to use an iPad from I think they're like 6 months now, right?
It's normal. From in the womb.
Exactly. Yeah. They know how to use the technology.
Yeah.
So it's about being conscious about what we're feeding into them. What are they seeing? What are they hearing? What are they experiencing? Because that's all having an impact to that's all having an impact to their mindsets, their belief systems from very young ages.
But when you say that about being conscious, I understand that. But what about when you're not aware? So like you're saying about environment.
Yeah.
Like I said, there's times in life where I understand certain things now. I didn't understand it then. I didn't have the language for it. So my language was acting up in another way.
Yeah.
So you're saying about being conscious. What about when you're not aware? How can you be conscious?
I get that. But this is why we have to start somewhere and start breaking the cycle somewhere. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
So you weren't conscious then, but you're conscious now. So now when you start your family, or if you've got a family already, you're doing things in a different manner. Do you know what I mean? But it starts with you. Every change in life starts with who? You and I, the person who you look in the mirror.
Called?
You for us.
I just thought I'd plug
there
that
you
for
go.
you. There you go.
That's it.
Yeah.
When you are in your best place, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, it impacts the us. The us being your children, your family members, your peers, and ultimately the wider community. So that's why I do what I do. Yeah, people may not be, but it's about I always believe in when you know better, you do better. But we have to start, the change has to always start with us, the person who looks in the mirror.
Yeah.
And, that may be later on in life sometimes that's earlier in life, but it has to start with someone
100%.
to break that cycle.
So tell us, all right, you're growing up now, you've gone from 16 up, you're in social care, you've had your daughter and whatnot, and then what was the journey like from then on?
So the journey from there it's always been self-development. So I had my daughter, I went back to college again and got a diploma in IT at Lambeth College up in Norwood. From there, I've been working since I was 18. So I got my first job when I was 18 and it's back to the skills that I learned when I was 15 as touch typing in my business administration. My first job was a data entry in a major recruitment agency in Mayfair. So I went there for a week just to do some backlogging, and I could type so quick. Where they said, "Do you want to have a permanent job here?" And I'll never forget because my job there was £11,000 was my yearly salary, and that was a lot of money back then. In the heart of the West End. So, and then from there, I just kept progressing into different roles until where I am now, and actually having my own organisation as well. So my first roles were all in administration, then it moved up to office manager, and then I had a role in a government office commissioning who commissions projects, and I didn't realise that there was an organisation that helps the community. So the London Development Agency was a commissioner that commissions projects, whether it's community projects, capital projects, but it was all about helping businesses or the community. And I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know there was an organisation out here that actually does things like this. And I think at that point, that's where it was for me. At that point was this is what I want to do. I want to do project management. I want to manage projects like this. So I used to help. I was the administrator for the team. I used to help the project manager until I developed and was a project manager managing multi-million-pound projects across the country.
What, hearing your story so far, what do you think? Obviously, you're saying about the things that you went through, but there's a lot of young people that probably have been through, I'm not saying the exact same thing as you, but have been through similar things, and they don't tend to have that drive. I'm not trying to generalise and saying everyone, but some may not have that drive and will fall by the wayside or get into crime and get into these other things. What, for you, because it seems like you was very certain in terms of, all right, educating myself, developing myself. What do you think made you go that way and not the other way, if that makes sense?
Do you know what? There's been circumstances where I'm not going to say I've had friends who do different things. There's been different routes that I could have gone down. But I don't know, within me, I've never been a follower. And I could have easily gone down certain routes. Statistically, I should have been in gangs. I should have been on drugs, alcohol, could have been, and there's a circle of what my childhood was that I should have gone down a number of routes. The one that I did go down was teenage pregnancy, and I understand why. But I've never been a follower. And I've always, and I think one thing for me, if I do think back, I feel like I've never felt like I'm a victim of my environment, if that makes sense. I've never thought of myself like, oh, poor Paula. I've always thought, I'm still going to achieve. Yes, I got kicked out of school, but I'm still going to get education. Yes, I didn't pass school, but I'm still going to go to university to prove to myself I can study at university level. I'm in this role, and these people are all posh and they've all educated and they speak well, but I can still do what they can do.
So that's what I'm trying to get at. So what made you like that in terms of, like they say nature, nurture. Yeah. So obviously maybe it's not nurture. You're saying you didn't have many role models.
Yeah.
What made you like that? What made you that fighter? Because that's what it sounds like. You're just fighting and you're just like, I'm not having it.
And I think I've already mentioned it. It's always about proving that I'm still going to be someone, proving that even though the environment dictated that I should be doing something else, I'm going to prove that it's able to be done, that I'm going to be able to achieve what people don't expect me to be able to achieve. I think that's been a bit of the driver in me that when I go to schools and I speak to across the country or in other countries, when I always make it a point to go to local schools, disadvantaged schools, speak to children from disadvantaged areas to let them know that your environment does not dictate your future. If you believe in yourself and have a dream and be able to, work towards that dream, you're able to achieve it. And I think that's been in me from a long age. Before I even understood the concepts, I've always had dreams that I'm going to do X, and I've done X, and I've always surpassed the goals that I've put down. So where you're saying what brings it into me, I don't know if it's the I always put it to God. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? I believe that God's always covering me. But in me, there's been a sense of whatever I put my mind to, I'm going to be able to do. And I know that's all, out there now, and it's just like buzzwords and things like that. But for me, even though I wouldn't have used those terminologies then, I do believe that I've always wanted to prove that I can do. Outprove myself, outprove my environment, outprove what nobody's done in the family. And again, it boils down to, I'm going to try. Yeah. Because for me, I'm going to try. I'm still going to try. So, some people say, failure. I don't ever believe in failure. I believe in I win or I learn. And then I try again. So I think that's been the basis of what, and plus having a young child and a family now, that was I'm the foundation. I'm a part of the foundation for my daughter. So again, that alone puts a big responsibility on my head that I need to set the foundation for those who are coming behind me.
Most definitely. That makes sense. I'm clear with it now. So like in terms of the path that you've gone on and what's led you to here, what advice would you give to a young Paula? Someone that is going through what you went through. So a young person now, let's just say they're watching that. What would be the advice, the steps that you would say for them to take, the advice you'd give them?
One thing I would say is sometimes we look for things externally and we need to turn things in. So loving yourself is important. Understanding that you need to speak positivity to yourself. Sometimes we can't look for it externally. Sometimes we need to be that voice that you need to hear to yourself sometimes. So I would say the steps to take is now you can look for someone that you can look as a role model. You've got YouTube now. Some people might not have the physical person, Paula, Charles. You might not have the physical person, but if you find that person, whether it's in a book that you read, whether it's stuff that you're listening to online, but feed yourself with positivity. If you can, feed yourself with things that makes you smile, that lifts you up, and that helps you along the way as well. Yeah.
So for you now, is there any resources that so when you're talking about, is there any resources that you've had in terms of mentors, certain books? Is there anything that you...
Yeah, I think one of the key books that actually switched for me, I've read when I was 22, and it was a book from Yolanda Van Zandt called In the Meantime. And In the Meantime was a book that was going through the different levels of your house. It calls it your house. But the ultimate aim of that book was loving yourself, how to love yourself. And sometimes you have to let things go that are not serving you well sometimes, and it may be hard, but you have to let things go that are not making you feel good about yourself. So that was one book that
that's hard though, isn't it?
It is hard.
That's hard because I think in terms of being in a relationship and when you split up, like say you might be in a toxic relationship and you're like, oh, I need to let this go, and then you let it go, but you feel yourself keep on coming back to it.
I know.
Do you know what I mean?
And that was the kind of situation I was in. So it's a book that I read that made me start thinking, actually, because of my childhood and because of not feeling that I might have been loved or something, I'm holding on. I'm holding on. And it was about, actually, you need to love yourself and let go. And if something's meant for you, it will always come back. And if it's not, then it was never yours to be in the first place.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? So, yeah.
No, I get that. Okay, cool. So in terms of like your career, so what is it like? Because I was doing a bit of research and I saw financial analyst.
Right. No. So right. So what I do is a number of things. So I run an organization called You For Us, which is dedicated on breaking negative generational cycles. So I focus on areas of finance, parenting, and education. So I'm also a best-selling author of a book called Black British History. We've got a second one is bestseller as well. 30 Black History Icons. I teach Black history as well. And I also work in prisons and schools with gangs and violence reductions. So the finance element, there's a lot going on, but everything I do is about helping others, elevating others, letting them see, that, again, your environment does not dictate your future. I believe when you got the right, when you know better, you do better. Yeah, sometimes it just needs one person to actually believe in you or say something that to make you feel like you can believe in yourself to change your life. All right. So the finance element is where I started, because I believe that the lack of finance is the core that leads to a lot of ills in our community. All right. So I teach people how to look at finances in a different way, managing their finances, understanding that money is not just a tool to be spent, budgeting, getting out of debt, how you can invest. And I teach it from a sense of what I've done myself. So again, I mentioned I'm the first person to achieve many things in my family. I'm the first person to own property, first person to earn over a certain threshold, first person to have a profession. Do you know what I mean? And I'm that little girl was like, Unana Paula.
Yeah, one of them ones. Nah, it's that follower.
Yeah, right. So what I done is I could see that many people are living in poverty, struggling. And I wanted to show them that when you got the right tools, the right mindset, you're able to change things in your daily environment. So I started to run seminars called Stepping Towards Increased Finances, where I talked about my journey, and it really inspired others to say, actually, if she can do it, so can I. Because
You said you're a best-selling author?
Yes.
A book. What's your book called?
Black British History.
Okay.
Yeah.
So could you can you tell me a little bit? No, sum it up. Because that's forever going on.
Yeah, that's fine.
We can't sum it up, but can you just tell me a little bit about that?
The book,
how that came about?
Yeah. Okay, so I teach Black history. I've studied under a gentleman called Robin Walker, the Black History Man. He's one of the UK's leading historians, scholars in the country. I studied Black history underneath him, and then I ended up teaching to key stage 3 children, so that's 11, 14, through a Saturday school. And originally it wasn't going to be a book. Originally it was content for our classes, but the information was so rich that we thought, actually, we're going to put this in a book. Why? Because in schools we're taught slavery or American civil rights. And there's a lot of rich history that Black people have been positively influenced in British culture from a long time. So we thought, let's put a book together about British history. And it's the first of its kind. It's written in line with the national curriculum. It has 32 lessons in there. Oh, nice. And each lesson has text, sources, activity questions. So when we published it, it was almost like, wow, Black British history, right? So, and it doesn't just stick to music and sports. We've been influenced in arts, in literature, in drama, in a number of different disciplines, and we're just highlighting at how Black people have been positively influencing different British culture from a long time. It's modern history, so it starts from 1948, so the Windrush generation forward. So I'll give you some examples. So Many people are unaware that it's a Ghanaian surgeon called Dr. Robinho who pioneered the keyhole surgery.
Okay.
We all know who Rosa Parks is, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Not many people know that there was actually a bus boycott in this country in 1963 held in Bristol. So these are things that I didn't know.
Bus boycott in Bristol.
In Bristol in 1963, led by a gentleman called Paul Stevenson. So it was a bus company that wouldn't employ black people, even though they had jobs. Black and white people boycotted the bus company until that was overturned as well. And it was those types of things that created the first race relations acts in this country, because there wasn't any race relations acts in the country. So it's those types of things that created the first race relations acts in the country as well. And then also the music, because, black people, we love our music. The music has also created subcultures from black music as well. So ska music with the early skinheads, mods. Yeah. Reggae with the early skinheads, punks were heavily influenced by reggae music. So there's been a lot of crossover. So even though the book's called Black British History, it's British history.
Yeah.
All right. So it helps to inspire, raise aspirations of children, and it also helps break negative stereotypes from other cultures as well when they start knowing the history.
Oh, nice. Cool. And you were saying about your company. So you told me a little bit about what it entails and whatnot. So what does what would be a normal week for you, like in terms of the work you do?
Yeah. Okay. So normal week might be held of coaching calls. So I do one-to-one coaching calls. It may be me being in a school. I also do personal development work in prisons as well. So I work with an organisation called the Safety Box, and we go into prisons and work with young offenders around violent reduction, so that my week could involve that as well. And I'm also, which is new on I've been doing it for the last 2 years. I also got trained and qualified and trained to be a financial advisor specialising in insurance.
Okay.
So I educate the community about insurance. So the reason why I got involved in that is because in 2019, my younger sister had a stroke and had major brain surgery without any insurance. So that really shook me up. So I went and got trained and qualified. So I'm able to advise and give advice and guidance about insurances to the community, because many of us don't have these things in place.
Yeah, so explain what
let
me be a prospective client.
All right.
Yeah,
okay.
I don't know if the client's the right word. So yeah.
So what I do is I provide advice and guidance about insurance. So things that impact your lifestyle, you're protecting things. So your income protection, critical illness cover, life insurance. I don't know if you've noticed that many people are using GoFundMe pages now when someone passes away.
Yeah.
To raise the money for burial costs. It's about having that insurance in place for yourself, that if something was to happen to you, that you are leaving your family members behind, the ones that you love behind, some form of financial security.
Yeah, I get that.
All right. So they're not having to have the burden on having to seek a GoFundMe page or having to have a loan or go into debt to be able to afford the burial costs, for example. Income protection. Some people are self-employed. And self-employed.
Especially in this time.
In this time. And if you have an accident or an illness, who's paying you? No one, because you're self-employed, right?
So you know about that. So how do you think that's worked within this whole? Because obviously this wasn't. Well, no one knows. Well, I don't. Let me not say no one knew that was going to happen. But I'm saying in terms of insurance companies. Yeah. So what would have happened? Like, because some people have been furloughed. Yeah. Some people have lost their jobs and whatnot. So I would assume that they're paying out. They must be paying out loads over the last year or so.
So there's a difference. When you've got income protection, that it only goes there if you are unable to work because of an accident or illness. So there's criteria, all right? Okay. So it's an accident or illness there. Critical illness cover is something that if you were diagnosed with a critical illness, you would receive a lump sum payment that would help you focus on your health, take care of outstanding bills that you may have instead of having to think about finances, because you want to concentrate on your health, right? Yeah. So things like critical illnesses cover things like having a stroke, a heart attack, anything to do with your major organs. I don't know if you know, but a lot more people, younger and younger, are having critical illnesses, cancers, having strokes, having heart attacks a lot younger nowadays. So it's about putting financial protection in place through insurance, that if any of these things that happen to you, you are still able to maintain the lifestyle or maintain your lifestyle at the same time.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
It's funny because I think I was having a conversation the other day and we was talking about finance. It might have been with Nat, I don't even know, but we was having a conversation about finance, and I was saying, for me personally, when you look at GCSEs and the syllabus, I'd rather, like, coming from where I'm coming from, they teach financial literacy than actually GCSE maths. Because I'm thinking, like, Pythagoras theorem, when was the last time I used that in my life?
Yeah.
But, like, in terms of financial literacy, for me, for example, for someone like myself, I might not have had good role models. Like, my parents may not have been good with finance. Do you know what I mean? So how do I then learn to be better with finance?
Yeah.
So I don't know, what's your thoughts on that in terms of, let's say, financial literacy, GCSE maths? What would be your thoughts on that?
That's one of the key, what you've just said there is one of the key reasons why I do what I do, because many of us are not taught anything about finances from the household. When I go into schools and I'm teaching young people that once you start having money, even now, saving 10% of your money, paying yourself first. And I've had young boys say to me, like, Miss, why aren't we taught this in school?
Yeah.
Because they even get it. Like, hold on a minute, that lesson you've just taught me, this is going to be life skills. And I feel like we need to introduce a lot more life skills into the school system as well, into the school syllabus as well. So when I get the opportunities to go into school, I do teach them about, what is budgeting, what is debt management, understanding your needs and wants. Some of us are living way beyond our means. And, and also teaching about sometimes when you lack the finances, when you do get it, what do? We want to show off. We want to, the perceptions out there that,
100%.
Everything's good. And
100%.
behind, you're driving the biggest car and putting £5 petrol in there at the petrol station. So, just understanding that you don't have to, you can wait. It's not instant. You can, you can use your money to invest and let your profit pay for your car, or your profit pay for your lifestyle, basically. So getting people to change their mindset. And we got a lot of negative things from our childhoods around money as well. So we gain our money mindset, our blueprint from childhood, all right?
Yeah.
So things that we heard when we were young, things that we saw,
give me an
things
example,
that we
because
experienced.
even when you're saying to me now, I'm trying to think, because I know I've been that guy that's just splashing, spending money. So you're saying in your childhood. So give me an example of something that we've heard that would...
Okay, so there's loads of sayings. So let me ask you, in as a child, what are the type of sayings that we hear about money? So your mum might have said...
I used to hear nonsense, like, things like, my eye's itching. Like, I used to hear them ones like, my eye's itching. And that means you're going to get money these times. Like, no, it wasn't that. I blatantly had a stroke. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, my cousin telling me, like, you're going to get money. That's what it means. And then I ended up having a stroke, like Bell's palsy. Like, do you know what I mean? But that's going off the subject. But
so there's little things like, you might hear money doesn't grow on trees, or you might hear rich people are selfish, or money is the root of all evil. That's a big one.
Definitely hear that one.
Especially in the black community, money is the root of all evil. Now, the saying comes from my favourite book, so they don't actually say that. It says the love of money is the root of all evil, because when you love money, you will do evil things to get it. But money is not the root of all evil. Do you understand? So can you imagine? So if you've got a loads of negative things plugged into your subconscious mind about money, all right? How do you expect it to manifest to you, to hold it? Or when you do have it, it will just disappear from you as well. So it's about reprogramming our minds around, and even the way we speak about, I'm always broke, I've never got any money. So if that's the self-prophecy that's coming off from your tongue, that is what you're prophesying into your life as well, right? So things you experience, were your parents savers, were they non-savers? Were they investors, were they non-investors? Was money an argument in the home, or was it a joyful thing in the home? These things program you as a child, that when you get up older, 99% of the time we follow how our parents manage their money. Where they just spenders, like, live now, just spend what you got. And those are the types of things that I teach about, getting people to understand that we've got a money mindset. And sometimes we need to reprogram that mindset. All right. So a lot of the times, many of us in the community, when we're used to not having, when we do have, what do we want to do? We want to show, we got it, we've made it, we're here, we're splashing, the drip, drip, drip. Do you know what I mean?
I think that's a new word. That's too new for me. Drip, drip. I don't know about that.
So everyone's on this new, and when you strip strip it back. Have you got emergency funds there? If something was to major to happen, have you got any money there? Much money have you got in the savings? So some of us look the part, look very the part, but behind the closed doors, you might be eating cornflakes for dinner.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, most definitely. It's funny.
So it's about changing that because our next generation are following you. So I always believe that children do not follow what we say. They follow what we do. So if you're saying to your child, read a book, you should read books, it's important, but they've never seen you read a book, how does that hold any weight?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's that type of thing. So you have to be seeing someone doing something to be able to aspire to that. We need to be setting the foundations that the next generation are able to have a step up. So I believe in children, the next generation should always have a step up in life. Yeah. And everyone builds on that step and builds and builds. And unfortunately, that's not happening. And that's what I want to change in the community, for people to see that we need to be being examples and setting up generational wealth, setting up things that we can pass on to the next generation so we can grow as a community.
So like with the work that you do, how do you, because obviously it's about like getting it out there and people seeing the work that you do. How do you promote the work that you do? Obviously, you're in the industries that you're in, but how do you get it out there for create more awareness?
A lot of that, I use my social media a lot, and I'm very who I am is who I am. So I speak my truth through social media, and through that I get a lot of recommendations. So a lot of the times when people think of, they want someone to talk about finances, my name will be called, and that's a good thing, because people's heard me speak, they've got something from it, so then they recommend me to someone else. So social media has done wonders in terms of reach, the outreach as well. And then so it's recommendations a lot of the times from hearing me speak or seeing me speak as well.
All right, so like, you know what, where you just said that, we're talking about finance, we've been speaking about finance, so like not everyone I know, but a lot of people that I know at the moment are like, Bitcoin, you got to do this is the way forward and whatnot. What's your opinion on Bitcoin? What's your thoughts on that?
I feel like in any form of investment or any form of something new, you need to do your own due diligence. So I do have Bitcoin. So I didn't know anything about it when I invested at first, because it's still not something that I've been able to. I've invested in other areas, but the Bitcoin's a bit. Do you know what I mean? Even though I did invest, because I thought I'm not being left out. So I did put something in, I'm not going to lie. And I even forgot about what I put in, because I bought Bitcoin, I think, in 2018. Only a little small something like £500. Just put something in small. And I forgot about it. And I don't know if you remember the story where that guy had 200 and something million, I think, in Bitcoin, but he couldn't find his password to access his wallet.
Mental.
Yeah, and he had one more chance. And I'm not sure if he lost it, but he couldn't get access to the account. And that made me think like, I've got a bit of Bitcoin. Where's my account? And I remember digging up all my journals, and I had the 12-word password in my journal, and I'm able to access my account. So I put £500 in. I think it's worth like 4,000 something now. So
it's not a bad little.
It's not a bad little earner,
in a few years.
So, but in any form of investment, you need to do your own due diligence. You have to understand it yourself personally, and don't invest nothing that you're not prepared to lose. Do you know what I mean? Anytime you invest money, it has to be what you're prepared to lose. Not that you're going to lose it. I don't want you to have the mindset, I'm going to lose it. But you never invest anything that you're not prepared to lose as well. Because when you invest, there's ups and downs. And some people ain't risk averse. So I've got investments now, because of the pandemic, they're all in the red. But I'm like, I'm cool. Because as we climb out, I'm hoping they get back in the green. Do you know what I mean? Because they're long term. They're not short term. But anything we do, we need to do it with some due diligence.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
In terms of the work you do, so obviously you're saying about working, like doing finances and whatnot. How is it for you as a woman, and particularly a black woman? The space that you work in, has it been working within the community, or has it been working in spaces that are predominantly white? What sort of spaces have you been working in, and how has it been for you to be able to navigate within those spaces?
There's been mixture. Predominantly, I've been in the community. I've been in corporate organisations where I'm invited to speak to the staff members.
That's and what is that like? Like being in those corporate environments, like as a woman, as a black woman, what has it been like navigating in that space?
For me, it's not been. I found it it's been okay. I've not found any challenges in it, and again, I don't know if that's because of when I've been invited to come in or on commission to go into I come in to do a job, and obviously they need the services. There's people there who need what I'm giving, so it's not been. I haven't found it challenging. What I do find challenging sometimes is that it's how many people that you don't realize that are having financial difficulties, and especially in this pandemic time, when the crisis first happened with COVID, the light was shone upon health, but the light was also shone that people weren't prepared for a crisis. Losing their jobs, not having emergency funds, not having any money in the savings, and it has a major impact on your health as well. So money is, has a major connection with your health, with your well-being, with your mental health. If your finances is not in the right place or able, or the foundations ain't right, for your living.
So what, like you're saying about the pandemic and whatnot that's happened, what would be, I don't know, what would be your, let's say you're doing facilitation now, what would be your advice to some people like this, gone through some of these things that are really struggling throughout this pandemic, financially, mentally? What advice would you give to those people?
So one of the key things I'd say is to be starting to look at your own personal finances now. How can we start reducing things? Looking at things like your utility bills. How are you able to switch providers? Are you able to switch providers to reduce bills? Start looking at how are you able to eliminate your debt. Start looking at clearing debt and things like that. Savings, budgeting as well. Budgeting is crucial in all manners of finances. So those are the things that I think that people need to start looking at. What things are we able to cut back on? So 21st of June, people's going to be back out, shops open. Do you remember when the pandemic first happened? I set a task for a lot of people in my community of, you are at home now, so you might be used to traveling, working, going to after work drinks, restaurants. Now you're not able to do that. Calculate that order up, and how much money could you be saving? How much money you could be saving, and looking at things differently in that sense. The first lockdown, when it opened, soon as the shops were open, what did you see? Queues. Queues around shops, right? So it's about trying to see if we can change that mindset of a consumer mentality, and try and thinking about how we can use that money to help us build more money, starting a business, investing in yourself, things like that.
So, all right, so let's just say, so you're saying like starting a business, because people let me not generalize, but sometimes I know even when I was younger, I might have a bit of money, but I don't really know where to go. I might have an idea, I want to do a cooking business, I want to do takeaways or whatnot, but I don't know where to go to actually start that business. What would your advice be in terms of starting a business? Because you might
have the idea. Do you know what? I'm not being funny or nothing. The internet is full of information. There's nothing you can't find nowadays without, even on YouTube. YouTube's got everything for you to just have the beginnings of learning something. So there's not really, for me now, I don't think there's any excuse for if you've got an idea that you want to start baking, you can go straight onto YouTube and learn how to bake, learn how to ice, learn how to, present your product. You can find it everywhere. And then obviously, you've got social media that can navigate people to help you as well. So I feel like there's a lot more support out there for you wanting to start something now, as opposed to maybe 10, 20 years ago. Does that make sense?
It definitely does.
So now you've got a lot more. You can go on YouTube and find anything. Even now, if I've, even little things like editing my videos. I'm not good at all the techie stuff, but if I want to know, I go on YouTube and say, how do you do X, Y, and Z? And I'm going to find it.
Makes sense.
All right?
Sense.
Yeah.
All right, in terms of, so you said growing up, you didn't really have much positive influences that were around you. So in terms of now, has there been some major influences that have been around you that you would say, you know what, I don't know, it might be a character that inspired you or whatnot?
I think now there's so many different women doing fantastic things, men doing fantastic things, that I feel like there is people who inspire me. So there's loads of people who inspire me, make me, want to strive to do better as well. And especially when you see other Black women doing great things that you are able to aspire to say, actually, wow, if she can do it, I can do it. If she's there, I'm going to be able to try and do great things. So I have different mentors for different things in life now. So I have a business mentor, I have a spiritual mentor, I have a financial mentor. So there's different mentors that I have now that feeds into different aspects of my life. I have a well-being mentor.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? So now I seek those people that can help different aspects of my life. Because for me, the learning process is never over in life until the day the maker takes you. You're always forever learning and developing. So I'm a student of life. As well as people find me as a teacher, I'm also a student. I can learn from you the same way you can learn from me. I never feel like there's nobody I can learn from. I can learn from a child. You know what I mean? There's always, I'm a student of life.
Yeah, okay. I see, like, when we've been talking a few times, you've touched on God and spirituality. It seems like it's something that's quite close to you.
Yeah.
Do you want to, like, delve into that a little bit?
Yeah. So I believe there's a God, there's a maker. And I'm very spiritual in a sense where I always seek guidance before I do anything. Do you know what I mean? I'm very grateful for everything. So, for example, I write down 3 things I'm grateful for every morning when I wake up.
Yeah.
Okay, I write down one thing that's positive that's happened in the last 24 hours. Now, some people might say, "You sure something positive can always happen?" Yeah, there is. I woke up this morning is a positive thing. I can see, I can smell, I can taste, I can walk.
Tell me the 3 things you've done today. Tell me the 3 things that you wrote today.
So the 3 things I wrote today is that I've just got my house renovated, so the floor's down now. So I was grateful that my floor is finally down.
Yeah.
I'm grateful this morning that my daughter came in the room and just told me, "I love you, Mum."
Oh, nice.
So that was a nice thing. And then I also said I'm grateful for the opportunity that I'm coming to have a podcast today.
Yeah.
So those are the 3 things that I woke up grateful for. So there's always something, and I find that when you give gratitude in life, you always have more things to be grateful for. So in that sense, I'm connected. I like to feel like I'm connected to the source, connected to nature, connected to God. And I always see the good in things, if that makes sense.
No,
I'll try and make sure I see the good things, because it just makes your life better. So even like with this COVID thing, people like, sometimes I feel a bit ignorant because I didn't switch on the news hardly. So I don't listen to the media.
To be honest, I'm not in it. Like everyone, you know what, even like this podcast, like seriously, like we was having a conversation, it's an idea that we had from before, but even how this come about, it's just like, everyone's got an opinion. Everyone's got something to say. So I just thought to myself, you know what? Let's like go within the community. Yeah. Let's hear what the people that are qualified, that have been doing this for quite some time, like yourself, let's hear what you've got to say. You know what I mean? We're at that time right now when it's about getting as much information, as much knowledge as we can. And I feel like even for myself, the thing that I've learned even more so is that I'm very in the middle. I'm not, if you want to get the vaccine, fair play to you. If you don't want to get it, don't get it. I'm not going to be one of those people that, but why? Why are you getting the vaccine? Like, what are you doing? You shouldn't be doing that. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's always an argument, and I feel like what I've noticed even more throughout all of this is that we're very divided. Do you know what I mean? I've noticed that we're so divided as people, and like we have everyone that follows. Do you know what I mean? But then you've got the right and you've got the left, but it's where I go with the left sometimes and I go with the right sometimes. Do you know what I mean? That's where I'm
It's
at.
what feels good to you.
Yeah, exactly. What works for you.
Yeah, what feels good and works for you. And I feel like in life, as you said, like a lot of us don't do our own research. We just hear something and then we run with that. And it's about doing your own research sometimes, just having your own. And that's how the media is. This is how the world is nowadays. We're not free thinkers, and that's how the world's 100%. Meant. We've got all the social media. We're bombarded with stuff that's to form your thought process. And unless you try and fight out of that and say, but actually, why should I think that? What if I think the other way? Like, let me do my own research. A lot of the time, though, you hear things, you see things, and you're like, that's gospel. And then you start talking about it.
Exactly that. Like, you just hear it, and then I'm saying it to Nat or to D. I'm like, it's this, and I haven't even checked if it's real.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
So we need to be doing a lot more critical thinking.
Right, so I suppose you've had this conversation. I'm sure we've all had this conversation because we're talking about this now. So,
are you going to ask me if I'm getting a vaccine?
No. I don't think you are, but no, I'm not going to ask you. But in terms of this whole COVID pandemic,
Pandemic?
Yeah, whatever it is, I don't know. I'm just here. That's all I can say. I'm just here. I'm getting on with it. Do you know what I mean? We're part of it. We're part of this history. What's your feeling like in terms of what are your thoughts? Wait, you know what? I'm going to say, tell me your feeling. Give me a feeling, and then tell me your thoughts. So everything that's going on, what's the feeling you have, and then what are your thoughts on this?
My feeling is there's a lot of control. Yeah, my feelings there's a lot of control now, and then my thoughts are we're in a new world now. We're in a new way of being now. Yeah. So where people feel like I can't wait to get back to normal. That normal that you knew before is gone. Yeah. We're in a new normal now. So we're in a new way of living. Now, I don't know how that's going to pan out, but I can see that there's a lot of control, a lot of, what's the word? Yeah, I'll just call it control. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of control on the things you can and cannot do. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So now I'm even in the process of thinking, am I ever going to travel again?
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah? Yeah. I'm a traveller. I like to travel 3-4 times throughout the year. Yeah. But now if I'm told I can't travel unless I have a vaccine, am I going to be travelling anymore? That's a decision I'm going to make, because that puts me in a controlled space. Like, am I going to conform? And then that's the only way I'm going to be allowed out the country because I've got a vaccine passport, if that does happen. But from what I'm reading and researching, it seems like that's the route that it may be going. Now, these are decisions that we're going to have to be making as well. So I just feel I'm more just waiting to see how this is going to pan out.
How this pans out.
How this pans out, yeah.
And specifically for the community that you work with, what are the things that you've seen in terms of how this pandemic has affected the communities that you work with? What are the things that have been really apparent for you?
If I bring it back down to finances and well-being, I think it's impacted a lot of people's well-being, their mental health as well, especially when you're bombarded all the day with negative news. It's had a huge impact on not only just adults, children as well.
But would you say, like, what I'm trying to get at, would you say specifically the communities that you work with, the ones that you're empowering, would you say that more so than maybe other communities?
I can only speak for the community that I'm in, to be fair, right? Yeah. And the pandemic has hit a lot of people hard in terms of job losses, losing family members, their finances, whether, the poverty levels have dropped as well. So there's a lot of work to be doing, and there's a lot of suffering at the same time. Yeah. A lot of people that you wouldn't have thought might need food banks that I know are using food banks that you would have never expected to be using food banks, So it's had a major impact on a lot of lives. I wouldn't say just in the Black community, but because I work within the Black community, I see it a lot as well. But it's had a major impact on all lives. Okay, cool. Yeah.
And I wanted to touch on the prison stuff that you said that you do. Just tell me, what does that look like in terms of when you're in the prisons and that?
So I work with an organisation called Safety Box. I'm one of their facilitators. So they have a program called Aspire Higher, where we go into the prisons and do a program with a group of young men, and it's all about violence reduction. So teaching different perspectives, so about personal development, understanding how you can actually try and change yourself. Do you get what I mean? How you can look out for, are you a follower, are you a leader? So giving that kind of perspective to say, look, in your circumstance, are you a follower, are you a leader? Do you want to be a follower? How can you change your life? Because sometimes you don't have any, you haven't got any other, like what we was talking about earlier, there's no other model for you to do. You only know one way. So it's about giving another perspective that, you know what, you are able to change your life. You are able to go in a different direction, but you need to believe in you. You need to see, have you got a family? What do you want for your family? Do you want your son to become doing the same, being here with you? Are you a follower? Are you a leader? So we go through a number of personal development things.
But is that easy? Because in terms of, I think about some of the programs when I was younger, boom, you're coming to me. Oh, you know what? I want you to stop being on the road because this is all you're going to get is prison or you're going to be dead, bro. And I'm just like, who's this old guy talking to you? I don't want to hear it now. I'm banging right now. Yeah. So I'm saying you can hear that, but is it easy that? How do you break through?
Yeah, I don't think it's...
For you also, being someone that's a product of certain things that some of these people have been through, how's that for you? Because I know that must be conflicting as well.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? When you recognise things that you've been through yourself. Yeah. So how's that? It's probably two questions I'm asking.
Yeah, it's not easy, but what you got to remember is everybody, if they're at that level where they're prepared that they want something different, then they're going to receive it. Some people are not going to receive it at all. They might take some in, but if you're at a point where I want something different for my life, you're going to be open for change.
But in prison, sometimes you just want to get out of your pad. Do you get what I mean? Sometimes you just want to get out of your pad and just like, this is a bit of time for me to talk a bit of shit. And do you know what I mean?
No, I hear that.
Do you get what I mean?
And no, we get that as well. But I think the difference with this program is that the facilitators have all gone through things. So we're not these professors or these people who's not from the roads and not real lived experiences. When we're talking, there's the element of credibility there. There's that element of understanding what you're going through or what you've been through, so we understand. So, for example, when I give my testimony, I don't give it to the end of the program. And then they're like, raw, miss, I wouldn't have expected that when I told them my story. They're like, wow. And then there's that level of raw, wow. But throughout, so even that element when I'm in there, don't call me miss, my name's Paula. Your name's not Johnson, and what's your name? Do you get what I mean? Even that level of understanding, and that builds up that rapport that when they are going through the whole program, there's a level of respect there, and they do receive some stuff. I've seen young men who's probably done some serious things change before my whole eyes by the end of the program. Now, I don't know if they're gonna. Sorry to cut you, Charles. I don't know if they're gonna maintain that or not, but I physically can see the change. I've physically seen that they've said, when we've gone in the next day, there was a little madness that went on, but they refrained from getting into it where they normally would have got. So that's the kind of change that we're trying for them to see, like that you getting involved can be you staying in there for 3 months longer. You trying to resist and say, you know what, you've got a goal, a purpose, you want to get out of there, stay out of it. And we've seen that some of the young men have got into things that they've not got into things, that things could have happened that they've resisted. More. Right, that's it.
Yeah, what I'm trying to find out now when I'm digging into it, how does that, because you're empowering young men, women, but you've got your own story that you've been through. So there must have been, I'm sure, times where it's a bit conflicting because it's close to home. How was that? Can you give me incidences when it's that really touched upon you in terms of some of the things you've been through, like you said about having a parent being on drugs. So I'm sure you've come across young people like that. Has it taken you back to that place? How was it actually? I want to know about how it's affected you.
All right, there's two things, and I think this is a crucial point. You see, for myself, I've always, throughout life, as I said in the beginning of this conversation, I've never looked to myself as poor Paula the victim. So I've healed throughout things. So I'm able to get into things that might, trigger me, but not be impacted or affected in that way because I've kind of healed through the journey. Does that make sense? So when I say to them at the end of the thingy, well, one of you little man there could have been the person shot in to my parent. Do you get what I mean? It's not, they look at it like, wow. But for me, it's like, I've never been closed about it. I would tell you my life story before you could throw that in my face. Does that make sense? So I would I would say to you, like, my mum takes drugs before you can tell me my mum takes drugs. Does that make sense?
But you see, in terms of with that, so I just think I could be someone that would proper like, you know what, I can't stand drug dealers because my mum was on this and my mum being on that, that made me have to look after my siblings. That made my life really shit at one point. Do you get what I'm saying? It made me go through things I didn't have to go through because you want to make money and you want to shop. You know what I'm saying? Have you ever had those feelings? Is it like, does it ever, do you know what I mean? Because I know some of the work I do, does it ever take you to a place where...
I get what you mean. Yeah. I feel like, sometimes it does. Sometimes you can feel, but then sometimes you can feel like that. But I don't know if it's just the way I am.
But when you have felt like that, when you have felt in that place, I'm not trying to victimize you at all, because I know you're definitely not that person. But I'm saying, when you have felt like that, What do you do? Because we all have those days, like no matter what, like when we look at certain things we may have been through in life, whether it be a relationship, growing up, like some trauma.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying? Because coming sometimes where we're coming from, you don't always realise the madness that you've been through.
Yeah.
So
No, true.
when you're in that space because it never leaves, but it's there. It's at the surface.
No, yes.
How do you, like, what do you do? And I'm not talking about not victimizing yourself. Because I think what I'm trying to get at is...
All right, let me give you an example. I don't know if I'm taking this away. Mother's Day just went. Mother's Day is a day for me that I'm glad because my daughters celebrate me and I've got a beautiful relationship. So I'm happy in one sense. In the other sense, I feel sad because I wish I had my mum around. You get what I mean? I wish I had the good relationship. Sometimes I feel like, boy, I don't want to cook Sunday. I wish I can go around my mum's. Do you get what I mean? So in those kind of aspects, I feel it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
In other aspects, I don't, like what you're just explaining, like, you know, do I hate drug dealers and Sometimes I don't think of it like that because now then I turn around and I start, because I feel a lot of things. I feel things. I think, what turned them to do it? Are they trying to feed their family while they're selling drugs? Or, you know, what situation turned them to do it? I've been in prison speaking to a young person and they said their dad gave them a Q, a white, Q, a brown and said, "Raw money for Mek."
Yeah, one of them ones.
He's young. He's a child. Exactly. So is that his fault? That's what happened to him?
It's like child soldiers, you know? Like, I'm from Sierra Leone, so like we had a civil war over there. And I remember like going over there and like, I'll be with my cousin. This is after the war. My cousin would say to me, "Oh yeah, you know, my man's a rebel." And I'll be like, "What?" I go, "So why are you just like saying hello to him and letting him walk around? You know the madness they done."
Yeah.
And he was like, "No, not really, innit? The government said like allow them." But then when he explained it to me, it's like what you're saying in terms of you're young, you're a kid, you're 10 years old. People come to you and say, "All right, take these drugs and shoot this gun." They're kids. Do you get what I'm saying? Like you're saying that same point. Like it's what you're seeing, it's what you know. So like it's the same point as in terms of take these drugs, just go and do that. That's your role model.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's the person you look to. So that's your environment, and that's I suppose nature and nurture.
Yeah.
So looking at so we've had a vast, varying conversation. All right, so I want to ask you one more question.
All right, cool. You sure it's the last one, Charlie?
Yeah, I might
All right.
chuck in a couple more. I don't know. I'm enjoying the conversation. So looking at one of the things that we do, so looking at everything that's going on in the current climate.
Yeah.
If you could be a weather, you could be whatever type of weather, what weather would you be and why?
Oh, this is easy for me. I'd be summertime. Not really. I'd be summer because everyone's got a good vibe in the summer. The sun's coming down. You feel good about yourself. There's, you know, when summertime comes, you feel good. You want to take out the white T-shirt, the glasses, the shades. You feel good. You're playing them nice music. People having barbecues. People are, you know, communicating with each other. People are, you know, you're having a good time. So for myself, it would be summer because I feel like summer brings out the best in people.
Yeah. Nice. Been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Cheers.